Hello world of YouTube and welcome to the next list in List Week 2020. The best songs of the year. Now, like my worst songs list, we're keeping one artist per entry, but today I'm going to be breaking down my top 20 best. Not my top 11, my top 20. Lots of great stuff dropped this year, as you'll hear me talk about tomorrow as well with the records, but we're keeping it singular. We're not doing singles, but we're keeping it one track at a time. But since I don't do just singles, album cuts are also up for discussion, because while I like the idea of taking a look at singles as a whole, I feel like it's limiting, because while I like the singles off of some records, there's some tracks when I listen to a record I just can't let go of, and I keep rotating back into, more so than some of the album cuts. And so that's the point of it. It's the point of the list, to showcase my personal favorites overall. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. Thundercat made a great tribute to one of my favorite funk drummers, Louis Cole, and had him on the track. They have this great chemistry. I love the throttling percussion. Not only throughout the whole track, it has that really insanely sporadic Louis Cole touch, but in the chorus especially, that line is vintage Cole in the best way possible. But Thundercat has some playful bass work on there. The overall tone of the track has the same sort of airy sheen that a lot of his record had. But out of all the collaborations to happen on Thundercat's project, this is the one that surprised me the most. Not because I didn't think Thundercat didn't know who Louis Cole was, but just to see Louis Cole even more so in like a very higher profile release than the stuff he does with Nowhere. It was great to see, and I was glad to see a dude that I've been following for years get a good showcase of his talents with an artist that does a good job at writing a track that suits really well with his sound. Mastodon may have only dropped like a B-sides collection this year, but they dropped a new track in tandem with that called Fallen Torches that has Scott Kelly from Neurosis adding some vocals in the bridge. And not only does he enhance a lot of the really intense imagery and the sonic palette of the track itself, the track has this overall tone to it that feels like a better harnessing, maybe, of some of the ideas, or at least what could be seen as a better harnessing of the ideas that were on Emperor of Sand. Because it's another track about, in tribute to somebody else who died, their manager, Nick, who they did like a tribute of Stairway to Heaven for Nick when he passed away. This is another track sort of written in that style, or in tribute to him, and feels like it sort of matches a lot of the songs from Emperor of Sand. I really liked Emperor of Sand, and I feel like this could fit really snugly in that track listing. But the overall sound of the track also feels a little more old school Mastodon in some aspects. A lot of the harshness in the production, the overall bite that the band has vocally sounds lesser than some of the sounds on their 2010s work, and I appreciate that. I like that they're tapping into that a little more potently in a way that I think comes across really well. I love the riffs on this project. There's a couple of really good lead riffs that propel the song, and I think that it sounds incredible, and it has me excited for them working on a new project, because they are. Yeah.
She wanted a baby just 19. I know I dream all black. I seen that.
I made a whole video on diss tracks back in 2019. I have a real love for a good diss track, and especially one that's a good clapback. And Song 33 by No Name is the classiest clapback I've ever seen somebody do in hip-hop, because not only did she respond to Cole, who honestly had one of the most bland diss tracks I'd ever heard. He had some bars in there, but by and large, he was not punching to the caliber that I would expect a dude with the weight that his name carries to hit with. And No Name not only clapped back saying, "Why are you writing a song about me? Why single me out? When also, for someone who is Cole, you should be writing songs about these particular issues going on in the country," and filling most of the runtime of this track just talking about her issues with some of the travesties going on, not only to black communities, but that black women are facing in the current climate of the world, over this Madlib beat. It's fucking great. It's only like a minute and a half long, but she packs so much shit in that time, it flies by like a bullet to the brain. It's insane. I really like her smooth flow that was present on her record that I really loved. I felt like it's just more greatness from an incredible rapper. And I was honestly floored. I was wowed. And obviously I think that she won that fight. While it's not ending up on my of the year list as a whole, Glue by Boston Manor did have a couple of really shining moments on it, and Plasticine Dreams, with its throwback sound that really channeled sort of early 90s alternative in a way that still felt fresh in the same way their spins on like progressions of 2000 Aggression did on their previous record. It just worked so beautifully well. I love the shimmery guitars on here. I love the way that the drums lead into that hook, and then I love how the whole space just opens up for this killer ass earworm of a hook that just gets stuck in your brain and gets embedded in there for days at a time. I adore this tune so very much. And its lyrics, while sort of at some points feeling a little too base level, hit the mark that I feel like they're trying to go for incredibly well. I like the idea of a song like this, and I feel like Boston Manor handled its subject matter incredibly well. It's just a vibrant, bright song with a decent amount of groove to it that is just a good, great, catchy-ass rock song to throw on any time of the day. It's got a nice groove, got some heart there, and I really enjoy it.
Mika said I had potential.
Fiona Apple's reflections on her early life with this person that she had thought never even existed, Shamika, only to find out she did actually exist later on, over this blinding piano riff that has this great break in its chorus, kept me coming back so many times and hooked me initially from first listen and just kept dragging me across the floor with every re-listen. It's a tight, catchy-ass song that really hones in on a lot of the great components that make Fetch the Bolt Cutters as a record incredible, something I'll be talking about tomorrow. But I love Fiona's voice on this. I love the hook of it. I love the way that the chords sort of lead into the hook itself really, really well. And I like overall the general kineticism that the track kind of throttles with, because even though there's a lot of breaks in the chorus, the main riff itself still throws you in and keeps you going. And it's a good moment on Fetch the Bolt Cutters that comes early, but cements the listener even more so into just the overall aesthetic and vibe that the record is putting out whole stop. I think it's a great track, and I think it was a great song that kind of helped throttle the record into sort of notoriety with its story behind the writing and stuff like that. Ace's tune from Fiona Apple.
Souvenir from Galaxy Quest. I know it sounds like myth and magic, but the shrapnel commits.
While initially sounding lyrically like it doesn't really fit into some of the more spiritual thematics that the record Spirit World Field Guide is going for, at least as far as explorative in a natural sense or doing some supernatural lyrics, it does still have a lot of that descriptive, vivid imagery that Ace Rock delivers incredibly well. I love a lot of the bars on this track. I love the Wonka name drop. I love the whole corrugated cockpit. I'm not exactly Major Tom. Buzz Aldrin. I can't count backwards. 10-1. Someone get this buzzer to the Matmos. 10,000 hours addressed in open beaks. Exiting the atmosphere with no green to chroma key. Like his wordplay is still 10 out of 10 on this track. And again, the descriptors of like almost seeming like a kid's imagination in the beginning did then throttle that into what is more a descriptor of himself once the digitized beat drops and we get the piano where he has, more descriptors about himself. There was a ghost who broke it all up into tiny numbers and dated vector graphics and New York Times puzzles, who struggled knowing love is more than boring data entry, more reported from an orbit all his own, to say it gently. Like, he spins all of this great, again, abstract wordplay into his own feelings of isolation, like the button masher pilot as a kid would feel. Like, he spins that imagination and childlike wonder of space into a portrait of himself so incredibly well. And while I like a lot of the lyrics and song topics on Spirit World Field Guide, this feels like a point where Ace took his own cryptic lyricism that he's known for, that he's made a staple in his career, and found ways to inject some of the ideas from The Impossible Kid onto it. And I really love that a lot. And he does that at other points, like Pizza Alley and stuff too, but I love the beat on Button Masher as well. I like that 8-bit chiptune beat with that tight drum groove. And again, I love when the piano drops, the beat switch, and the piano drops. It's incredible. Great ass tune that I feel like, again, wasn't initially a single, but I think has actually become one now. And it's deservedly so.
They got its own fallacies, resulted in casualties. I was supposed.
Rhapsody wasn't the only artist to speak on the injustices the black community has faced systematically, but seemingly more so in 2020 as like a heightened sense of awareness to the world. And she used her frustrations and channeled them into a great single in 12 Problems. I love her delivery on this. She sounds frustrated, and understandably so. You know, I think that her wordplay is insane on it. I love the hook of the song, you know, where she spins the Jay-Z bar of, I got 99 problems, but 12 still the biggest. You know, I love that vocal sample that coats the beat and enhances its sort of reach atmospherically, but also just adds this sense of forebodement to the overall unnervingness that could stem from writing a song with this message. Incredibly powerful tune in my opinion, and again, just showing Rhapsody's talents as a rapper on full display. For an artist that I only got into a year ago, I am growing more and more of a huge fan of her work, and I feel like this is another great notch on her belt song-wise, but I feel like in a year where it was potent, the tension and the frustration, you could feel it, I think that she channeled all of that incredibly well here. Phenomenal song.
I smell the blood of a million suns.
Out of all the small sonic experiments that Idols did on their newest record, I like Grounds a hell of a lot. I like that sort of lead riff with that other riff that comes in and just breaks up that loop with those drum lines. I love Joe Talbot's swagger. Again, he's throwing a lot of that politically charged lyricism at you with the same bite that Brutalism had, but with the playfulness that Joy carried. It's a great marriage of those two records, ideal-wise, and I love it. I love Grounds a lot. I think it was a great single. You know, while War kicked the door down on the project, this is another great track to sort of carry the listener in a more groove-centric fashion. I think it's a great tune. I think it's got a good-ass catchy melody, and again, a lot of the lyricism in here is very, very potent in a good way. You know, I think it's an incredible song, while, again, off of another record that was just aces all around from Idols, this is another just shining moment on it. A single that embodies a lot of what made Rina Sawayama's record great. A song that has such a catchy hook. This is a song that's been embedded in my brain at work. I'll just be doing my job, and I'll just have the hook of this song playing through my head on repeat for like hours. It's one of those incredible earworms that also sonically embodies a lot of what the record does well. That heavy guitar that comes in to transition into the hook, that flamenco guitar that coats the track, the overall general production tone of it just suits the record incredibly well. And Rina's voice melts over it all like cream. I could even see the lyrical threads of living in excess or wanting excess fitting the overall nuance to a lot of what the production has going on, because for a track, and a lot of the record has a lot of different flourishments, it could seem excessive, but Rina carries it so fucking well. I love this track so very much, and while again a record stacked with excellence, this was just the moment on it that shined the brightest to me. One of the more low-key cuts on Everything's latest record, Moonlight, is the most Radiohead-ish the album gets, but I'm not mad at that. I don't mind their singer Jonathan's more subdued delivery on here, and I feel like it works when his voice does soar in that chorus and the rest of the instrumentation sort of washes over the track with him. It creates this really just, again, serene experience, and that tight groove at its core feels so intimately played. It fits a lot of the tone of the track, and while I don't mind a lot of the bombast with tracks like Arch Enemy that I really loved from Reanimator, I think this is one of the better moments where they fully executed what they were trying to do on their previous record so very well. While I do love a lot of the hooks and some of the other tracks, and I was tempted to put one of them on here, I couldn't help but put Moonlight in its place instead. I knew I was putting something from that record on here because I really, really love Reanimator, but I really like the overall crooner-esque quality that this track carries into it that I think, again, sticks the landing tenfold.
Whole shit steady, we close-knit, and deadly as a heart attack. Trust me,
A meeting of the minds that I was so happy to see. Even Swizz Beatz, who I would not say is one of my favorite contributors to hook work in hip-hop, his Good Morning really just leads into everybody's verses incredibly fucking well. And Black Thought, Pusha, and Killer Mike all came to play with some bars. While again, Pusha kind of spins his verse doing his Pusha thing, painting a picture for you, while capping it off to some subtle disses at Drake more than likely, with his Maybach line, and even maybe the line prior to that. But Black Thought does what he does in a lot of the record, addresses his frustrations with things that have been going on in the black community systemically, but especially in recent years in a heightened sense, where he talks about an outsider's perspective possibly on Philadelphia with like, yo, I'm from the home of ghosts, water plugs and wokeness, water bugs and roaches, drugs and overdoses. How you approach this Philly is where the dope is. Also spinning the law of averages line, which is incredible. Your life could depend on the law of averages. The difference between black and white is mad privilege. Fuck that shit. Incredible bars. Again, Black Thought is one of the best rappers ever. So Killer Mike comes in, doing what Killer Mike's been doing his whole time, but in a greater prominence in 2020. Same thing Black Thought's on. Referencing stuff like the Moors. I'm the official, unofficial mayor of my city. Learned my lesson from the crack trap and school of high thoughts. Pushed the D like Pusha T and kept my mind Black Thought. Like, he's just rapping about his city, rapping about his culture, and just spitting dope lines. Black Thought, this is like a cocktail of excellence. Again, I love Black Thought. I've spoken my praises of Pusha T as well, and if you didn't know, I also really love Killer Mike. So this is just a marriage, a collaboration I was happy to see come together, and I was happy came across as well as it did.
You say my name like I have never heard.
I had a hard time picking what Dua Lipa song was going to be on here, but I knew it had to be that, because even from the first time I heard that song, I had chills. You know, the build-up with those strings, and the cutaway of everything for the hook with that bass. The bass on this track is incredible. Like, it opens the song, and then that killer groove comes in. It's a perfect type of pop song in this style, and Dua Lipa had a hell of a year with one of the best pop records within that year, and Break My Heart is just a great track that I'm not surprised became a single. It wasn't single when the album came out, but immediately when I heard that song, I was like, that's a platinum track right the fuck there. Everything about that track is perfect. It has the great build-up, that perfect explosion, and that perfect just refrain that hits you. Because that I'm falling in love with the one who could break my heart is such a hurtful line that I love so very much. A great track on a great record. From a great record. One of the weirder picks I'm sure people are seeing this high up, but Algorithm is a track that I just couldn't put down from Childish Gambino from this year. It was in my top 5 most streamed tracks of the year. I love that digital groove, that robotic-ass delivery from Childish Gambino, that breakdown that happens for like 15 seconds after the first chorus. There's so many weird components of this track. I love the hook of this song. Like, I love the meltdown in the end when it comes down to just the claps that melts away into just whatever the hell the track ends in. It embodies a lot of what that Childish Gambino record had going for it, but amidst all of what that record had going on, there was this perfect little synthetic track in it that kept me coming back for more.
And I had actually learned while editing this that it was like a concert staple for him, and he just had a jam of this song that he decided to pull together in this tight-ass track. That's fucking incredible!
I had initially thought I was going to put a different Weeknd song on here, but I couldn't escape Blinding Lights' grasp that it had on everybody else throughout the year. You know, everyone knows why this song is great. It's one of the best, highest charting songs of the year. It's a track that I feel like really reinvents The Weeknd in a way that works incredibly well for him. A lot of After Hours had meldings of the two that I really enjoyed, but I feel like this as a pure 80s ass, 80s dance track, it's perfect. That synth line, that drum work that hits so very hard, that hook, just a perfect pop song in the purest of ways. And a lot of other people have said it, but fuck the Grammys for just sleeping on this level of greatness.
Make them walk forward with
I really love the haunting sounds on Make Them Dead. You know, the beat itself is one of the most just jarringly, consistently noisy things that Clipping have ever used on a record, but that hook that comes in, those voices that almost sound like the dead from the gallows themselves, urging the listener, urging the protagonist of the song to do what he has to do. It's a haunting ass track that I love so very much. Again, had a hard time picking what exact song from this Clipping record I wanted to put on here, but every time the hook of Make Them Dead came on, I just kept getting chills consistently. It's a really dark song, sonically and lyrically, because it's off of the fucking Clipping record, but I love the use of sonics on this track especially, and it's what set it above some of the other tracks on the record that I loved wholeheartedly. But Make Them Dead is an incredible album cut that I feel like people should not sleep on. For all the praise that record's getting, I feel like that's definitely like the shining moment to me personally.
Cause they throw away black lives like paper towels plus unemployment rate. What?
Anderson .Paak's best contribution he made this year was the single Lockdown that saw him tackling, again, the protests that were going on against police brutality and systemic racism that were going through all throughout 2020. His soulful ass groove, his hook that, you know, saying like, is a lockdown, it's a goddamn lie, expressing his frustrations with seeing it on the news, you know, even having some lines about COVID. You know, it's a very topical track that I feel like hits so very hard. You know, I loved this track upon first hearing it. The biggest problem I have with the streaming platforms version is J-Rock's verse is missing from it. While J-Rock's verse has some lines that I don't necessarily like wholesale, he still gets in there and he throws some bars in that I think work incredibly well. And he flows so well over the instrumental that Anderson's constructed. It's got some vintage soulfulness in a way that I feel like fits the tone of the track in a way that Anderson hasn't necessarily strayed away from before this tone, but it just hits so very well in a track like Lockdown. Again, another artist venting channeling the frustrations and anger that I know he's feeling in a way that I feel like was incredible. I love Lockdown. I think it's a great tune, has a great hook, and is another great piece of an artist expressing throughout the movement. Gorillaz made a New Order song, and it kicks so much ass. That bass line, incredible. The overall tone of the track, amazing. Those synthetics, so vintage in the best way possible. Y'all know I love 80s synth pop, and I feel like Gorillaz channeling that tone so perfectly works. Honestly, Damon Albarn's voice fits this sound so incredibly well, and that hook is so good. Such a good, catchy ass hook. Again, not the only great moment. Y'all know I really loved Desolé when it came out, and I liked it more than Aries, but the more that I spun Aries, and I got sucked into that jangly synth pop atmosphere, the more that I just kept loving every second of it. It's a tight groove. It's a great, catchy ass song from a record that had a lot of bops, this was certainly the best bop of them all.
And your country, yeah, ran by a casino owner. Pedal.
Walking in the Snow was Killer Mike's golden hour this year. I'm not going to refute that. But collectively, as a track, just consistently hits so much harder. Its hook takes that golden hour and helps transform that message into an accessible slice for people to keep digesting into their ears. You know, look at all these slave masters working on your dollar. Incredible hook. That Pharrell and that then bleeds into Zach De La Rocha at the end embodies that frustration so well. But then L and Killer Mike deliver kick-ass verses in tandem with that again help solidify that message so well. And then Zach comes in. You guys know I love Zach De La Rocha. I love Rage Against the Machine. And I just like a lot of what he has done as an artist. And I feel like his work with Run the Jewels has been a great reintroduction of him in bite-sized pieces into the general populace. And I'm perfectly okay with that. I think he fits this cut incredibly well, which is baffling because it's a song with Pharrell. I would never think in my life that Pharrell and Zach De La Rocha would be on a song together, but it's a match made in heaven in my opinion, because I love Pharrell's hook and I love Zach's contributions as well. Even the production, which is done by LP, sounds like a Pharrell tinged beat. It's incredible. Just is a great fucking song that takes a lot of the frustrations and overall lyrical themes that Run the Jewels 4 has going all throughout it in one perfect moment. And similarly to Just, the title track that closes out Spanish Love Songs' Brave Faces Everyone takes a lot of that pain and catharsis and self-reflection and feeling the world in its depressive state emulated so very well to the listener in a way that feels a little too relatable to not feel personal in its own sort of way. It takes a lot of that and still throws it in your face, but by the end of it, turns it. Throughout the track, it kind of turns it into, it's okay. We still need to just do it. We still need to just face it all. You know, it's a point where, again, that catharsis is still felt, but it's channeled into a point of foraging on, pillaging forth. You know, it's an incredible moment, and it's the best song that could have closed out this record. I mean, it has everything the record has going for it so very well. You know, but I like that it tries to channel that into something else and channel it into something positive, because I feel like at the end of the day, while yes, life sucks, we wallow in that, everybody does, especially if you have depression, anxiety, stuff like that, and you see age happen before your eyes, you know, but at the end of the day, you do need to just accept that and move on and pillage forth, and the album does a great job at closing that sentiment out with that sentiment. I love it. Love the track. I have a lot to say about the album tomorrow, but I love this track. I think it's really, really good. And I feel like, again, the perfect moment that album could have closed out on. Struck me like a chord. I'm surprised this song wasn't higher on my Stream to the Year list, because I have been very addicted to At the Door since the first time I heard it. You know, I feel like the Strokes and ballads aren't necessarily always a guaranteed sell, but At the Door is instantly one of the Strokes' finest moments. That synth line, the way Julian's voice soars over it into the hook, the general pacing of the track, the general washed over feeling the track kind of goes through as it progresses along is incredible. You know, I love the imagery in the chorus. I love how that transcends into the verses as well. You know, I like the general crooner aspect that the song has, and I feel like it's this very emotional moment on the New Strokes project that hits incredibly well. You know, right down to its sort of melting away that it does by the end of it. It's an incredibly perfect song that, again, I'm amazed wasn't on my most streamed, because I have been so addicted to it from the first time I heard it. Easily the best moment on the new Strokes album, easily one of the best moments of their career instantly, and easily the best song I had heard in 2020. That was it. That was my list. What did you think about it? Did you like it? Did you not? Let me know in the comments down below. What were some songs that you enjoyed that came out last year? Did you agree? What parts did you agree with on my list, or parts that you disagreed? If you did like this video, be sure to give it a like. If you want to see more of my music, gaming, and general nerdery content, be sure to subscribe. Special thanks to my patrons. If you'd like to join their ranks to get early access to content, exclusive content, or to help drive the community, it's linked in the description.
And if you want to check out my top 50 playlist of the year, featuring stuff like All That Ever Mattered by Haim, Dying Breed by The Killers, Righteous by Juice WRLD, Exile by Taylor Swift. All my top 50 tracks listed in order in a playlist are in the description on my Spotify, so give that a spin if you want to see some of the stuff that I liked.
I'm going to get out of here. I've been Viral Rack. You guys have good days, lives, and situations, and I'll see you another day. Really tomorrow, but another day.